Your life as a pilot would be a breeze on cross-country flights if no matter where you were, you had something that could tell you exactly how far and in what direction your destination airport was. And what if it could tell you how long it would take you to get there from where you are? You're already way ahead of me, I'm sure. GPS, of course, will do that and much, much more. So let's take up the question, how do I get to my destination airport? We'll start with the assumption that you and your Skyhawk are in the parking area at your home air patch. Step one is no surprise. Turn the GPS on here. The screen will come alive with a blinking message that proclaims self-test in progress. After a few seconds, the screen will display a bunch of data, and down in the lower right corner, you'll see the word pass, begging for your approval with a blinking OK next to it. Make it feel good and press the Enter button, the one labeled ENT. Now the screen will show the date and time at the top, and on the second line, it will show the nearest airport, like the one you're on. Check that the date is right and that the time is within 10 minutes of being correct. Unless someone has been working on the equipment, the date and time should be okay. If not, the GPS is unusable for navigation and you should report the discrepancy. Let's assume they're okay, as they will be almost all the time. Then check the airport entry. It should show the airport where you're parked. And when we say where you're parked, we're serious. Notice right below the airport identifier, it shows a bearing from, and below that, a distance in tenths of a nautical mile. That's the bearing and distance of your parking spot from the airport reference point at the geographic center of the runway. We told you this thing was accurate. OK is flashing, so press Enter. By the way, if your GPS is for use only under VFR conditions, the screen will tell you so. And when you fly in VFR conditions, you can and may operate with an expired database. The screen will show the date the database will expire or the date it already has. Press Enter. The next display will be a page that shows the VHF communication frequencies for the airport where you're located. It will probably say APT +5 in the lower left corner, meaning that it's on page 5 of the airport chapter. Turn the right outer knob until the little line or bar appears over the label Nav. Then turn the inner right knob until the page number 2 appears with Nav in the lower left corner. There's some possible confusion here. The VOR receivers in your Skyhawk are labeled Nav1 and Nav2 on the audio panel just above the GPS. They're totally unrelated to the Nav1 and Nav2 pages on the GPS screen. Anyway, the screen now shows your bearing and distance from the nearest VOR. Check to see that it's roughly correct. You're probably saying, all that stuff is neat, but how's this GPS thing going to help me get to my destination? Well, ready for the big event? Press the Direct button. That's the one showing the letter D with an arrow through it. The screen will now say Direct to with a blinking space in the middle. You may see blanks or other stuff depending on how it was last used. No matter. Using the right inner knob, enter the first character of the destination airport's identifier, just as it appears on your navigation chart. Say you want to go to Borrego Springs, California. The chart tells you Borrego Valley Airport is Lima 08. Now, in the contiguous U.S., that's the 48 states, if the identification consists of 3 letters, you must put a K in front of them. Canadians use a C and Alaskans a P prefix in the same circumstances. But Borrego is a mixture of letters and numbers, so you just enter it as shown on the chart. To enter the next character, move the cursor with the right outer knob and select the correct entry with the right inner knob. Repeat this until the complete identifier is entered. Press Enter and the screen will display the identifier, the name of the airport, the city, and the state. If you agree that this is your destination, press Enter. Now, the screen switches to the Nav1 page and shows a variety of things. It shows the desired ground track, the actual ground track, the bearing, and the estimated time en route. It even has a baby electronic CDI on the second line of the screen. If you'd like a bigger picture, you can use the #1 VOR CDI by pushing the Nav GPS button right above it, lighting the GPS annunciator. You're on your way. You say you want a picture of what's happening? Well, notice that it says Nav1 in the lower left corner, meaning that you're on page 1 of the Nav chapter. For a map, you want to be on page 4 of that chapter, so turn the small right inner knob 3 clicks clockwise. You'll see labels for pages 2 and 3 click by as you turn. But when you get to Nav 4, the screen is so full that there isn't room for a label. But you'll know where you are because there is no mistaking the map. There are at least 12 different ways that information may be displayed on this page. What you're looking at is what the last user selected. Usually you'll see the airports, VORs, and airspace near your position. If that's not to your liking, just bring out the pilot's guide and tailor it to your taste. You can always go back to the Nav1 page with a few clicks of the small inner knob on the right. But this map goes a long way toward giving you really good position awareness. Well, you're on your way and everything is going to be just fine. But just for grins, let's put the supposer to work and suppose that things are starting to unravel. Let's say the weather ahead doesn't look at all like what the briefer promised. Not only that, but what you see behind you ain't all that good either. So you prudently decide it might be a superior idea to get your trusty Skyhawk back on the ground soon, before you generate a headline or a 20-second soundbite on the 6 o'clock news. We'll take a gander at the middle button on the bottom row, the Distressed Aviator's Friend. It's labeled NRST for nearest. Push it. Up pops a screen saying nearest at the top and a list of different things that you could be nearest to. VORs, NDBs, flight service stations, and so on. Since you're most interested in airports, isn't it grand that the first choice is airports? It will also be blinking at you. Press enter. And there it is, the first of 9 nearest airports showing identifier, elevation, runway length, the kind of surface, the bearing to, and the distance. If the right-hand inner knob is pushed in, you can turn it clockwise to scroll through the remaining part of the list of 9 nearest airports. Somewhere in that list is a place where you can comfortably land, tie down, close your flight plan, inquire about the bus schedule, and phone home. We told you this thing could make life easier, didn't we? So while you're lolling around taking your ease, whip out the pilot's guide and teach yourself what the first 3 chapters are for. One word of warning though, when you use the procedure we just used to tell the GPS to take you somewhere, it's going to do exactly that. It'll pick the shortest way there, and trivial details like mountains, special use airspace, or what have you aren't going to influence it. It's up to you to make sure the route is a good one. Oh, this thing does have some semblance of a conscience. If your present track is going to take you into some special use airspace within the next 10 minutes, it'll flash a great big M on the left side of the screen. Push the message button and the screen will tell you all about it. That's MSG for message. Push the message again to restore the last display. And if you want to review what we just told you, you'll find it in the introduction of the Pilot's Guide. Happy reading.